Welcome to the Sunday Superversive live stream. I am your host, Benjamin Wheeler. My co host, Anthony Marquetta, is enjoying nuptial bliss. Sadly, I cannot join him in this, so I am off doing my own thing. Curse my chud incel life. But I'm joined with Isaac Arthur, Isaac Young. Oh my goodness. Oh my gosh. We talked
not
about
that, not that Isaac.
Not that Isaac. We were chatting with Isaac Young today to talk about his Vagabonds Kickstarter, which you can find linked in the description below. I will put a link to it on screen. Um, no, absolutely not. Not that. Uh, but I'll deal with that later. Uh, Isaac, how are you doing today?
I'm doing very well. Thank you for having me on.
It is a pleasure. We run in the same circles, you and I. Uh, Sounding like Emperor Palpatine or something there. There we go. But yeah, no, we're fellow travelers. I always try to support the works of people who, I am a fellow traveler with. These things do need friend support as much as it needs a willing and sheep-like audience to buy everything and all at once. We love you, sheep-like audience, but where are you? Is it because I keep calling you a sheep-like audience? I don't know. But let's talk about Vagabonds, its history, because it was something else before. Why don't you take us away, Isaac?
Yeah, so basically, Vagabonds started life it was like 1 or 2 years ago now, where back then there was this show called The Boys, which is featuring very prominently on a lot of conservative channels, mostly conservatives bashing it. And I was actually intrigued by the story, the concept of that story, which was celebrity superheroes, because I actually thought that was an interesting premise, how they tackle corruption. But with a lot of left wing stories, what they do is they make it super subversive, where it's not the point of their stories is not to find something noble despite corruption. They just kind of go for shock
Right.
value upon shock value until it's just sort of a parody of itself. Um, Whereas what I want to do was I want to do a bit more of a sincere take on the subject. And I was also combining it with a lot of other ideas I had at the time, post-apocalyptic stuff, particularly in terms of what would happen if the left wing sort of won the culture war, and
Yes.
combined all those ideas together and synthesized them into my first draft, which was originally called Giga Heroes. And the third thing I was
Yes.
doing with that story was I was trying to experiment with a lot more of it, in contrast with the darker material I was working with. I kind of wanted it to be tongue in cheek, and a bit more
Mm-hmm.
lighthearted. Um,
Yeah.
and so I was also working with a dry humor. I always like to try and do something that's very different with each project I take on. So that was sort of my experiment in that direction. And so I hashed out a manuscript on my Substack. And I don't know if I've taken that manuscript down yet. You could probably still find it. Um, and basically, it was originally very fast. It was very. There was some criticism on it about the depth of the characters and their motivations, and it was just sort of a thing that I put out there. And what eventually grew into was I went back and I said I want to do a full-on revision of this. And I want to really improve it and bring it up to a new level. And what I did was I went all in on redefining the characters, really fleshing out the world. I think I added about 1,000 to 2,000 words on average for every chapter. So it expanded in length quite a bit. And
Wow.
yeah, I refined it quite a lot. Um, and that eventually, I let that sit for a little bit because I was starting work on The Last Human, which is another project of mine. But I want to get it published by January, February. So I was like, all right, this is in a great state. I'm going to do one final pass of editing. I'll put out a Kickstarter for it, and then we'll see, how well people respond to it. And yeah, the name change from Giga Heroes to Vagabonds came with the uh, complete revision, but I only really made it formal for the Kickstarter because Giga Heroes is it was meant to be a joke title for something that was supposed to be very very lighthearted and humorous, but with the revision and the official release, I kind of wanted to convey a bit more of a gravity that was there in the text that wasn't present before, in my opinion. And so that's the reason behind the name change.
Sure. That's good stuff. Um, some things do need to evolve to properly match expectations and other things that non-authors have to think about. Vagabonds is quite frankly a better name, I think. I do
Oh
agree.
yeah.
Just because Giga Heroes, that um, Giga Heroes is. I'll tell you in a bit. Uh, anyway, excuse me. Giga Heroes is just kind of too generic a name. Like, this is gonna sound strange, but like sometimes names too shaped like itself are just uh, unusable marketing wise. It's why there's no actual comic strip called Superheroes. It's all, Superman, Invincible, The Boys, etc. Though, quite frankly, with the way how DC and Marvel comics have gone, playing as a superhero story is straight is almost unheard of. I can't think of any modern versions currently. They're all upheavals or subversions of characters, even of characters like Superman. Um, based on the ill-formed whims of its ill-gotten authors and comic artists.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, I muted myself. I know that the comic book industry has been particularly hit by the left and just the degradation of culture. Whereas, in the film industry or the television industry or the video game industry, you can kind of hope for 1 to 2 good releases a year, or just generally like 7 out of 10s. Whereas with comic books, it's completely
Yeah.
hopeless.
I mean, I just finished Silk Song. That was really good. People call it indie, but it's like, I mean, technically, but they had tons of money from Hollow Knight. They are an official established studio. Anyway, that's probably not a discussion for now. But it's like, yeah, absolutely. Like it's like, yeah, this year's was better than last year by quite a bit. But there's not been a lot compared to some other years that we've had, and just because it was better than the COVID years is damning with high praise.
Yeah, it's like back in the 90s and the 80s, you had like, classics coming out like 4 or 5 every year. And nowadays, it's just like the pickings are so slim now. I was recently talking about it that like people bashing bad culture is honestly become far more entertaining than anything that's being put out.
Yeah, I agree. Well, nah. I guess in the mainstream sense, bashing the mainstream because it's like I played Silksong, like I said, but it's like how do I want to put it? Like, there's not much to bash. Oh, you found Morthwing or whatever his name was too hard. Like you could tell where the journalists were collectively in Silksong by the articles about X-Boss was too hard, all coming out at once.
Mm.
And to me, it's like, you know, I don't know if you played it, but it's like, yeah, no, like I got stuck on a boss that I shouldn't have been fighting for like 4 hours. But guess what? That was me being too stubborn to go. Maybe I'll come back with some damage upgrades, so I don't have to strike it 300 times, to win. But I did it. I won. So yeah, we were talking. Yeah. Anyway, keep going. Keep going.
Yeah, I mean, now we were talking a bit about it. I think I did touched on it before the stream, but I guess my main project that I've been focusing on is trying to create alternatives to mainstream culture, and more importantly, trying to figure out a way to market those things because it's comparatively easy at this point for myself to create something. It's 10 times harder to have any success off that thing, no matter how high quality I make it. And I've seen this a lot in the distant sphere and the reactionary sphere. It's impossible to get an audience for something new. And that's kind of been the problem I've been working towards for the past 2 years or so, is trying to figure out how to capture that audience. And so my solution that I was working towards was audio shows, because I was thinking that nobody in my peer group even reads anymore. They all listen to audio form content. And I was like, all right, that sounds like if that's where people are consuming content, that's where I need to go. And so I started commissioning audio series, and that's had its own success, but it's so difficult. And I'm trying to still figure out the secret of scaling up, which is what I really want, but I don't quite know how to do it yet. If you
What
have any
does
thoughts on the subject.
scaling up look like to you?
Um, it would look like like having a budget for commissioning art. Because for my audio shows, for my YouTube thumbnails, I use AI art because it's not feasible for me to spend $300 on a thumbnail every single time I need a thumbnail. And that would be $300 minimum. If I really wanted something high up, that price would be probably a bit higher. So that would probably be my next step, is trying to secure like genuine art that's good and isn't AI. The second way I want to scale up is graphic novels. But that's something that's quite time intensive, and something I think would be worth it because it's a lot easier to sell, I think, a graphic novel than a regular prose novel, especially since manga has kind of taken off in the West.
Yeah, but the fans are trash. Like
Fans
it's
trash.
like I've seen what happens to John Della Roz by people who supposedly love the medium anytime he comes out with something, and he's got a very large fan base, but but they're quiet. I've seen the sales, but it's like doing it. Oh, don't you know that it's like this? Yeah, but he's fighting the very thing that you spent 8 hours on a stream talking about how much you hate. Yeah, but I don't like how he does it. Okay.
Yeah, it's interesting the way the sphere works nowadays. I'm not sure what the solution is. I mean, obviously, solutions are distribution system,
Decimations.
decimations. If only were that simple.
That's right, on the Superversive Sunday Superversive live stream. We do support violent action to bring the peasants in line.
Uh,
And by peasants, we mean those ankle biters who tear down everything in their path, regardless of quality. And then, lick spittle to the big powers whenever they can. Fear will keep them in line. Fear and this passage. It's a true thing, Isaac. It's a true thing.
yeah.
I'd say that's. I mean, I know what you're talking about, but it's like I remember when whatever his name was, Ryan Williams, was making when AI came out. He was making such a big deal. Don't you know I spend $600+ on each cover, and I'm sitting here with perfectly fine covers, no AI, for $150, $100 a piece. You just have to find desperate people, Isaac, and offer them a lifeline. Uh, and I'm not joking, nearly as much as how humorous I'm making it sound, because it's 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 difficult for people to kind of get it, because like to me, what I'm hearing when you say scale, I'm just hearing improving the quality of the side assets, which like I've used the same image for Pinkerton's Ghost for years. When I've changed images, I didn't see any spike in interest. um and then I changed back, because why not just have a singular art style throughout. It's like the as long as the quality of things maintains the same, one hopes that eventually things will get there. But it's like Eldritch Fan says, possible to get an audience for something new. It's true. Can't get friends to click a link of stuff I recommend. There's some truth to saying how conservatives have low openness. um, I know for myself, I maintain a very close friend group of authors I trust. But at the same time, it doesn't necessarily mean that, like, well, right now I'm running through some trouble, so it's like I can't support Brian Niemeyer saying monetarily. I can't support Isaac Young saying monetarily, and it's not like I don't want to. It's just that I like having my bills paid, and I'm going to have
uh,
to like go out and do food delivery and stuff. It's like I don't like doing that, but again, I like the bills paid. So it's kind of like that, where it's a mix of nobody having any money and things being expensive, but at the same time not being kind of like, oh, like Ryan Williams attacking anyone who says your cover artist charges you $600+ for that. uh, I think well, eventually we'll start breaking through, but maybe that's just a pipe dream on it, because these trad pub is funded by government money. uh it's hard to kind of go through with it, uh to their utter destruction.
yeah, but also, is anyone really trying to find a replacement for Trad Pub at this point? Like, is anyone
Yeah.
really trying to? Like, everyone says they hate Trad Pub, but is anyone really
Yeah.
trying to? Like, I don't think anyone's really, because they all go to the same. I'm not saying that the indie community doesn't have people who are burned by traditional mainstream publishing, but at the same time, it seems like the vast majority of people, they when TradPub scored them, they either turned to different mediums altogether, or they just kept complaining about TradPub without actually supporting any other forms of art or any other venues.
Yeah. I mean, it's some of our brightest stars have people around them, but fundamentally, like, the common man just doesn't.
The common man is not an entrepreneur in any sense
No.
of the word.
And it's hard to break free of ideas. I know for myself, I'm fairly open minded. I've got great variety in books in my library. I've been to other countries. But at the same time, it's like sometimes I just want some McDonald's. I don't care if I'm in the Scottish Highlands. I want a triple cheeseburger and some fries and a Coke.
Shame.
I know, but like in the Scottish
I'm
Highlands,
joking.
when your other choice is a fried pizza, I don't know. It sounds pretty good. It sounds pretty good. Fried pizza is good exactly once if you have taste buds. Uh, but it's hard to break free, and especially with people who just don't want to think about it, don't want to think about their lives. Like I actually think that a lot of the quote unquote philosophers on Twitter and so on are more interested in just the same philosophies they always like than they actually are, doing philosophy.
Yeah, I mean, I have my own problems with how the algorithm is structured so that everyone has to have a hot take 24/7. Whereas a lot more serious academic work gets kind of shoved to the side because it's not as sexy for it's not as sexy for the likes and the engagement, um, which is a shame, but can't really do anything about that except do that work on your own. But then
Yeah.
you're taking that you're taking a hit.
I wonder if Elon Musk is kept up at night sweating about the fact that he has to compete not against other platforms, but against the beauty of God's creation. And then he ups the sexiness of the tweets.
uh,
Why don't you tell us a little bit more about, almost called it Giga Heroes,
yeah.
Vagabonds? What's the plot? More of the plot. What people can expect.
So the story follows three main characters in a post-apocalyptic version of America, where pretty much things are crumbling to the point where pretty much the only civilized parts are the cities or agricultural districts, with vast chunks of the American heartland just left up to bandits and wilderness. Um, but the story of the book itself takes place in an urban setting called City 57, and it follows three protagonists. The first is Daniel Peterson, who's a down on his luck superhero, who's living the fake and gay life, as it were, and trying to find something more meaningful. And he's basically slowly pushed to his snapping point. The second POV character is Seattle Vance, who is a very blasé mercenary, and he is basically out on a quest of vengeance against everyone who has screwed him over in life. And he's definitely the most chaotic out of the three.
Awesome.
And the third person is Adam Mason, and he is a homeless guy who crosses paths with Seattle, and he gets a superhero injection shoved in his neck, and basically he becomes a super hobo with ultimate power. And a good chunk of the book is him screwing around until he finds real purpose in life.
That's pretty funny. It reminds me of Homeless Emperor from One Punch Man. This guy is, taken away as a salary man, loses his job. He's about to hang himself in the woods. And then a villain who's called God gives him the power to create energy balls. And he's like, I am going to use this for evil. That's good stuff. It's I noticed that there aren't any women. Good work. But it's it's good. It's solid. It is what it needs to be. Um, I don't need subversions. I don't need any crazy things going on here. As a follower of your work, I know it'll be very solid. Excellent piece there. Well worth the investment into Kickstarter, and of course, it's done. It's not like some other people in the superhero and comic sphere who promised the world and it's a couple years off.
Yeah, I only go to Kickstarter when I have a complete book in my hand. I don't. I can't imagine ripping people off and then never finishing it, or a nightmare scenario like Patrick Rothfuss, where he promises a chapter for a charity stream and he never finishes the chapter. Is that still ongoing? I need to search for that because I think that's still ongoing. Is he never released the chapter? And people gave him like $100,000 for just a single written chapter. I can't.
I don't comprehend his popularity. Like,
I
I
don't
understand.
comprehend how that's possible.
Right. Like,
Oh my gosh! Like it just it
yeah.
boggles the mind that that amount of money, and it went to a charity, so it wasn't like he stole it by any means, but still, like hundreds of thousands of dollars, and for something that was never released. And meanwhile, like that's sort of actors who are filled with trad pub. You have again like people like George R. R. Martin who have been focusing on side projects when their magnum opus has been left untouched for like 14 years at this point. And if George R. R. Martin decided to release a Winds of Winter tomorrow, it'd still make millions.
Oh,
Uh,
yeah.
and meanwhile, an indie author who's like a starving artist, and he might, I there's a lot of hand wringing about the indie scene that a lot of their stuff is low quality, but a lot of their stuff is also pretty high quality if you take the time to sift through it. And a lot of people, they can't get a fraction of that, despite grinding away for years, putting way more effort in. It's sort of a bit tragic in my view, but it is what it is.
I agree. Well, it's like for this stuff, I never have anyone on who I don't think is quality. But also things like so much of the indie scene, a couple years ago was just these series, and you gotta do book after book after book after book to get these whales. But like maybe a handful of things actually have what I would call like relevance. Nick Cole, Richard Fox, those guys, are the one. And Nick Cole really isn't indie, because on account of how he was published and stuff like that.
Yeah, none of the main indie names are actually indie. Like
Yeah,
Brandon Sanderson goes indie, and then everyone's like, "Oh, Brandon Sanderson's indie now." No, he built his
no,
entire reputation and career off of TradPub, and because of that, he can become a successful indie. Which no shit on him.
yeah, yeah,
I don't have anything against Brandon Sanderson particularly, even though if I don't like some of his themes in his literature. But I don't have anything against him. But he's not an indie creator. He
no,
built everything off of TradPub, and same with and I love Larry Coria.
yeah,
Again, not throwing shade at him, but to call him an indie author is a bit misleading.
yep,
Like the only true indie stars, it seems nowadays, are not people who worked their way up from nothing. Is the common conception. It's people who had a great deal of institutional success, who by that privilege of becoming name brands, they're able to translate that into basically taking the revenue and punting it away from the institutions towards their own gigs, which
yep,
I don't fault them. I applaud them for that, but it's still at the same time where the indie creator, I think, at least for literature, doesn't exist. The indie rock star for literature doesn't exist really.
right.
It exists for video games, and I know why it exists for video games, but it doesn't exist for literature, in my
Yeah,
opinion.
I'm with you there. Partially because it's like they talk about Brandon Sanderson going indie. He has multiple assistants. Uh, he has multiple people who are working for him in different ways and different times. Um, and just it's like one of those things where if I could hire 3 to 5 people, where all I have to do is dictate a story and then someone will write it down, or he'll use a one of the higher grade equipment, to that costs $1,000 for the equipment or something like that. It's like, yeah, absolutely. And I'm not saying this in the sense of sour grapes. I'm saying this in the sense of he's not indie. He is a mainstream guy who has moved to a
Who
different
basically kicked the publishers out of his revenue stream. That's all he
right.
did.
It's like an author going on without an agent in the Trabs pub sphere. You know, he didn't suddenly become indie because he doesn't have a agent anymore. He didn't suddenly become his own publisher just because he didn't want to pay the agent tax.
Yeah, it's like Stephen King decides to go independent. Is he indie? No.
No. Even if we were like, yeah, sure, except for his name and the fact that he owns his own home and has no financial pressure, and
I mean,
has
what's his
people
net
who,
worth? What's his net worth?
I don't know. It's
uh,
it's if it's not tens of millions of dollars, he's been a fool. Uh, but it's like that, yeah. Like actual indie, excuse me, excuse me, requires a certain amount of unknown nature to it. Um, you
which?
know,
Oh, sorry. I'll let you
keep
continue.
going, keep going. This is.
I mean, like people use that as a sort of virtue signal. I found, and that there is a certain amount of, there is a certain amount of grit that does convey of basically doing a startup from nothing. Um, I think it's that the important thing that I like people to take away from that is there's this idea which I think is false that it's sort of like it's very American dream sort of situation that if you can pull yourself up by your bootstraps, then you can become as successful as Stephen King,
Right.
which is not it's not I hate to say it, I wish it was possible. It's not, because that kind of there's a point where that kind of success and influence is determined purely by your connections
Yep.
and your institutional backing. Indie expands into the individual, the local, and a sparse community given by the internet. But where you
Yep.
see actual culture war stuff, that's completely institutional. That's 100% institutional.
Yeah.
That's not startups.
Well, and it's hmm, like when it comes to sorry, I'm trying to get the right words here. And when it comes to like countercultural stuff, yeah, there's the indie stuff. Anything that becomes popular enough as indie gets co-opted into several camps, depending on how they're willing to sell their soul. It's like characters like Larry Correa, even though yeah, sure, he seems like a good guy, et cetera, et cetera. He still has people on his side who he'll feud with, whether they deserve it or not. And if he didn't feud with them, if he played too buddy buddy with them, he lose all his contracts. They would not work with him. How do I know this? I know this because I saw John De La Rose lose all his contracts, even with his bestseller, because he kept with Vox Day. Like it's there is such a thing as those who don't get bought don't get to play. Uh, Stephen King, the reason why he has all this success is because he's willing to do anything for any amount of money. We see that because of the ending of It and other things as well, and his many addictions to different substances. And props to him for breaking him, but there's a clear marker in his career between them.
Yeah,
You
I
know,
mean, I'm not for the right wing. I'm not. It's not about selling your soul that
mm,
really makes me that really I really dislike. even though that's really, really bad. I'm not advocating for selling your soul by any means, but it's this idea of the principal loser who is not willing to play any sort of power politic at all, who is just willing to either go into obscurity with the bootstraps, or rather tell other people to go into obscurity in the bootstraps route, or the person who just who's constantly, again, virtue signaling that they're they're essentially on the outside. That's what the right does. At least the online right does a lot. Is they virtue signal that they're outside the establishment, and they worry about ever becoming the establishment, when that should be the goal of every single right wing influencer or person with reactionary or Christian or Catholic values. Is no. It's not a good thing to be outside the establishment. If you're outside the establishment, that means A, the establishment is either indifferent toward you or actively persecuting you. It's not a good. It's not something to brag about. Which a lot of Christian influencers particularly do, is they brag about it.
Well, and it's like people like, oh well, if you look at these guys are outsider artists. And I go, yeah, but they go to the same party as the insider artists. And sometimes they even host the parties while being the outsider artist. And it's not something that they get.
Yes, this aversion to politics that like really gets me more than the sell your soul, because the sell your soul stuff, that's a true reality, but it's not a true reality for the right wing. At least the people who have sorted themselves in the past few years to be honest actors. That's not the problem facing the serious actors on the right wing, is whether they'll get bought. They've already sorted themselves out via the COVID pandemic, who was ride or die. We already know those people. The problem is that they're constantly outside the establishment. And insofar as they get any traction, there's a lot of infighting. There's a lot of virtue signaling over really inane things. I remember when Charlie Kirk, unfortunately, was murdered, there was no enemies on the right died within a few weeks of that. Again.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, the problem is infighting. The problem is principle losing, all that sort of stuff.
Oh yeah. Well, and I hear it even from my own family members. And then they'll go right around and go, well, don't you know, and then give me a point validating my own opinions. It's like you complained about the patriarchy, and then on your trip to Papua New Guinea, was grateful for the patriarchy. So you weren't, used, abused, and murdered, in some mountain home by some savages who haven't even developed an alphabet of their own, much less even scratching hieroglyphics. It's like, yeah, but it's the patriarchy, man. I'm sure this hit homes for a lot of people in Thanksgiving. Yeah, I hate the principled losing. I hate it. You don't look principled. You look like a loser. And quite frankly, if you look throughout like the Bible and stuff like that, where does this attitude even come from? Like, who were the principled losers of Scripture? Yeah, sure, you can look at somebody like, oh well, didn't God tell Hezekiah that he's going to lose the king, his children will lose the kingdom? Yeah, except the next children after Hezekiah was like King Manasseh and other evil kings who hated God. Like, the disaster didn't actually come on the good kings. In fact, God let the good kings prosper and prospered them in their wars and everything like that. It's clear that there's a different standard to God's behavior that that people refuse to admit to. Like especially like when they go to the verses and it's like, oh, God's a God of peace, and then 10 verses down later it says, my God is a God of war, says David. It drives me bonkers, I tell you.
Yeah, we'll see if we'll see what happens in the next few years if the right can shake that off, at least in terms of the people who matter.
Yeah.
Because
Well,
there's a lot of newfound animosity. I think that's has a good place. Because a lot of people are waking up to the fact that a lot of their influencers are essentially calling on them to lose.
yeah.
And there's a lot of grassroots tension with a lot of the influencer class, which
Oh yeah.
we'll see where it goes.
Yeah. And it's it's like you'll always have an influencer class of some kind, but
We could definitely use a lot of it. We could use a much higher quality influencer class.
Like, yeah, like they can be thrown. Like people forget that they can just be thrown from the horse at any time. You can go, I'm not listening to you, and they don't have any answer to it. Like, can you imagine the absolute rape Will Stancil is going through right now?
Oh my gosh!
Like, I don't understand how this man keeps posting. Like, I would kill myself, quite frankly. The like if people were making long, full length cartoon parodies of me, like, and not like South Park or something like that, but just, I don't know. Like, how do you live with yourself?
Well, here's the thing, right? I could live with myself if the left were making full-time cartoon parodies of me.
Yeah.
But if the right utterly disowned me as well, and like all the people I respected basically flipped me out and called me like a grifter or a liar or any of that.
Yeah.
That would be my breaking point, because I don't care what my enemies say about me. I care about what my friends and people I respect say about me.
Yep.
And that would be that would be something if that ever happens to me. I pray it never does. But yeah, like the problem is Will Stancil, he doesn't realize that he even his own side hates him.
Right. To just like,
he can't win them over. Like they like when he asked them for their help for the election, or, the governor or whatever, mayor, some political position. They're like, "No, you're a white man. Sorry.
Nope.
We hate you.
Not you, buddy. Never you."
Yeah.
Which hopefully is a lesson our side will learn.
Yeah, he's getting ratioed on Blue Sky.
He went to Blue Sky, immediately gets ratioed. They can barely hold themselves together. Oh well. I actually don't know the politics of Will Stancil. I just know that he's a laughing figure.
He's basically just a race traitor.
Oh. The classic maneuver.
Yeah, I mean, he's just he's a shit lib through and through. That's all.
Yeah. Well, it's that's most of the people here, because it's like, one of the things I find fun on Twitter is when someone posts something like, men are like this, men want this, the right wants this, the right wants that. I go, no, I want something worse. If someone's like, oh, the right wants war, it's like, no, I want nuclear devastation. I'm gooning to nuclear war right now. It's like, it doesn't matter how horrific it'll be. That's just where my post is. It's like men just want women for sex, and I go, no, I have a higher desire than that. And then I post a picture of like somebody drinking milk. It's fun to do on Twitter, but it's when you can't tell with somebody, it's like, I don't even know. It's like David French or other people bring up as names or columnists or whatever. It's like, I don't know who you are. I didn't care who you were before. Well, you were a columnist at this magazine. I don't read that. Like, it's that easy to deal with these people. Like, it's when people say, "Oh, I'm Cat Rambo. I've not written anything relevant for 30 years. But you should care about Swiftwa." Absolutely not. I've met her in person. She is a cowering old woman who shakes in the slightest breeze. But don't you know she's ferocious online? Like, that's how I view all these people. It's like dealing with Vox Day would be a relief, just because my antipathy uh, is just, I don't care whether you live or die. If you cease to exist, if Will Sansel ceases to exist this second, my life will not change, except in the fact that those weird, funny memes of "it do be like that, Will Sansel" will just slowly disappear, in a week. With, like, over his gravestone, Jamal is crying over Will Stansel's gravestone. "It do be like that, Will Stansel." That's it. That's the final meme. My final solution for all these internet tomfoolery. But it does take away from actual work. Like what we're doing, Penguin's Ghosts, Vagabonds, Last Human, and the work of others. I'm sure Eldritch Fan can just pump out name after name of people who do. Even guys like Brandon Sanderson, even though he was really good for our side, because he created a sort of Kickstarter craze for a brief minute. Is kind of detrimental, because it's like the expectation is for Brandon Sanderson style things, and not the humble Kickstarter crofter.
Yeah, I've always it's always a bit rough trying to position yourself, um, because if you notice um, how a lot of energy is being directed towards, let's just say, unproductive things, um, then if you complain about that, you come off as envious, which I don't want to do, because I'm not really envious. I'm more just concerned. But it's really easy. Like, let's say I comment about a certain YouTube critic getting 50 billion views on tearing up Star Wars: The Acolyte, right? And I'm saying this is very unproductive conversation, guys. We already know it's trash. What do we need? Why are we wasting all this time and energy taking that down? And I know why they're doing it. It's for catharsis, but I don't like drama. I don't like provoking fights. That's also a waste of energy. It's also just a waste of time to stir up drama like that. So in some sense, you kind of do have to just
Yeah.
let it go. You have to let it go and be like, okay, I'm just gonna create my thing over here, and I'm not gonna. Oh, maybe I'm not good as this about this as I should be, and I'm working on it. But I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm not angry over wasted energy,
Oh
because
yeah.
it's not productive.
Well, it's like for some of the things, it's like you have more views than I do on, like, YouTube and stuff. It's like, oh well, don't you feel a little, excuse me, a little twitch? I'm like, yeah, sure, I guess. It's you know, but at the same time, it's like, no, he's doing good work. That's all that needs to be done. Why should I envy good work? It's not godly. It doesn't bring me closer to my goals. Uh, it doesn't create love between brothers. And he's not making himself obnoxious, which is also something that I think people. How do I want to put it? Like Patrick Tomlinson going, "Oh, child." Like, why in the world, if I was on his side, would I ever work with a guy who is so degrading on Twitter that I don't even think someone with a kink could get off on it. Like, it's like, what can you do with that? Okay, Patrick, I need you to behave and not slander a litigious enemy of yours for 5 minutes. And then he'll do something slanderous. because he was part of, if I'm recalling correctly, and I may be wrong because I get sometimes the organizations mixed up, but he and Sifwa and other things were sued for like slander and stuff like that, as well as how they treated Vox Day and John De La Rose in different lawsuits over how they spoke to them and stuff like that in official capacities. So it's like you ask him to behave. It's like no, they can't. Uh, the only safe option then would be to like ghostwrite something, but even then he'd probably mess it up. Like just like I don't under like their functioning works on a certain amount of churn, but it it's like I don't like like Will Stansel. Like, how do you associate with Will Stansel, knowing that you're going to be in the next cartoon if you do? Uh, you know,
Yeah,
uh,
yeah.
yeah,
I've been taking a hands off approach, not being concerned about where the right is spending energy, unless it's like something really foolish.
yeah. Well, and what I'm talking about more is just kind of books and stuff like that, because it's like I know that characters like Barack Obama and stuff like that, they have ghostwriters. I'm pretty sure I know who some of the ghostwriters are. It's at least for the right wing figures, I should say. And it's like the only trustworthy way for them to actually produce something vaguely new is to hire a ghostwriter, and just kind of hope that people are okay with that.
Hmm.
But that doesn't help us at all. In fact, very little of it helps us, which is probably the problem. I don't know. What are we talking about, Isaac?
I guess the core question of the right wing is always how to get an art scene up and running.
Yeah. Yeah. Like if I lived in like New York or LA, I could probably do something. But at the same time, it's rather than living in St. Louis. But even then, maybe that's just me griping. I'm gonna. I should see what I could do with St. Louis. That'd be pretty interesting. Somewhere that isn't an imperial heartland has a actual art scene. Can you imagine? Can you
Hmm.
imagine? Book publishing. Oh, no one's talked about a right wing bookstore. It would be firebombed in a month.
It would be, or sued into oblivion, or some activist is going to show up looking for trouble,
Yep.
and they always talk about, Christians, you don't have to bake the cake. We're just going to sue you for millions of dollars and tie up your entire business in these, national lawsuits
Yep.
uh, until you finally crack under the pressure.
Yep. Because they are demonically possessed, or at least inspired, and that means something a lot different than when you know someone like me is dedicated to something. That's not, how do I want to put it? The energy comes from me and maybe a holy source, which isn't like a beating pulse of rage that is telling you to deform yourself, deform your body, deform the world around you. Uh, you know, Plus, those people were backed, like they were agent provocateurs.
Oh
That
yeah,
that
they definitely had backing from all the NGOs or the leftist patronage networks to do what they did.
Yep.
Got access to the best lawyers.
The ACLU is backing this case. Uh, yeah, it's like one of the things coming up will be Shiloh Hendricks's trial, if she even bothers to go, which I don't really recommend actually. Uh, but who knows what warrants could be put out? I shouldn't say that. Uh, but it's like what's the thing there? How do you support them? Do you support her like you supported me? I should say, like I supported Kyle Rittenhouse, um, which was to the hilt, and I watched the trial very carefully, uh, even the boring bits. And they were boring. Court stuff is boring. I think it's like what can you do then? In reality, if left and right were on equal footings, Shiloh would have a lawyer behind her, or at least a funding behind her secretly, to keep that part of the culture from collapsing in on itself like it has been doing. But actually, I'm even though I'm not hopeful about right wing patronage, uh, I'm hopeful about some of the news that's come out. I think we're moving out of a dark time, and we'll see. We'll see where it goes. In reality, I think I know the problem, Isaac. I think I know the problem in our stuff here. We don't have enough anime girls. Isaac,
Uh,
what have you done? Why haven't you put anime girls into this?
well, I recently did a thread
Excuses.
on my
Excuses.
brother drawing free run, so that
Yes.
counts.
Oh, that counts. Yeah. All right. Free run is correct. Free run is the right wing anime that we all need. Uh,
Free run will save the West.
yes. Uh, actually, it's funny. I was reading a bunch of not like Aesop's fables, but I just happen to have them at hand. But like fables of different kinds, and it was entirely about, yeah, it doesn't matter what they say, look at what they do. Oh, this, the nature of the scorpion. If somebody's trying to do you harm and they tell you to hold to your morals, you shouldn't do that because they're trying to trick you and kill you. You
Mm.
know, it's like thing after thing after thing. And so I think what we're doing is we're moving into a I just don't give a shit kind of mode where it's like, oh, don't you want to be principled? It's like, that's no, not really. I think I'm just going to do. I think I'm not going to worry about this stuff and um, do DoorDash or something until it's instead of a real job. Oh, you can't do that. You can't do that. You got to have a real 9 to 5, don't you know? You got to be miserable and you got to make TikToks about your life where you go hour by hour, and you got to dip your head in the blue water. You remember that?
The blue water? No.
Yeah, there was this guy
No.
who had the most performative minute by minute of his life of his day, where like he just swims for 5 minutes, and then that's his exercise.
That's funny.
It was very weird, like it was almost parody, uh, or maybe it was. Latinas are my being. I'm so sorry, Eldritch fan. We can't let you into Hyperborea now. Uh, yeah, maybe we're just one good Hyperborea edit away.
Maybe.
Maybe
Hopefully.
they'll let me into Agartha with this one. All right, we're just riffing. Um, do check out Vagabonds. Isaac, do you have any last words for us?
Um. Well, I hope everyone who tuned into the stream had a good time chatting. I guess I'd like to open up. If does anyone have any questions in chat? If there are any.
Yeah.
Oh gosh. Sorry, I was looking through.
Yeah.
Someone made a English anime girl when. Oh my gosh, that is the. For people who don't have context, that's a character from a book of mine that's been gaining some traction, and people have been hounding me about it. Oh gosh. Eldritch fan asks audiobooks. I assume he means the audiobooks for Vagabonds. I still have to get that together. I have two people that I'm eyeing for voicing the characters. I just need to find the third. And so I will. It's a pending idea that I've been trying to get together. But I've been looking for appropriate voice actors. I want to kind of expand my network with that, so that's why I've held off on announcing it. I'm hoping to make it free on my YouTube channel, but it's just down the road kind of stuff.
Yeah, voice actor is actually kind of hard. Speaking as from some guy who does it on Pinkerton's Ghosts, Like, yeah, you can get pretty decent people and even cheap people, but getting the actual right voice to the character is just difficult.
Yeah. Well, that wraps it up for me. Do you have anything else?
Fair enough. Thank you, Eldritch fans. Uh, let's see.
Any idea when the sequel of Domes is coming? It'll be written this year. Sorry, not this year. 2026. I can't say when it's going to be physically published, but it will be written and completed in 2026. It's on my docket for next project.
Yeah, we're actually at the time of year where it's like, no, it's not anything we're going to get done this year.
If I could write a 70K manuscript in a month, that would be beautiful. But unfortunately, that's not how things work.
Nope. And that's all right. Let's see. Yeah, looks like that's just about anything. Brandon Sanderson has his I don't know about GE's books being padded out. There's some things I would have cut. There's a girl has a period scene, which I think is just whack. That's the best way to put it. I will talk about sexuality in my books, but I always either have it as an unhealthy expression I'm quietly warning against, or it's eldritch. Because quite frankly, I don't think people can actually talk about sex without being a little bit pornographic in some way, shape, or form. In the whole spectrum of things, unless you are a total degenerate with no connection with humanity left, you will put in things eventually. If you're not careful. Brandon Sanderson has his giant staff, but don't you dare even think about using AI. Yeah, I've lightened up on AI, quite frankly. I would never use it myself in most situations, but one of the things I did was I mocked up some covers for a real artist, a flesh and blood artist, and basically, one of them turned out really cool. It's like a black hole of hands in a certain style with one of the villains sticking his face up from the center of the black hole. And I'm like, this is too cool not to use. I don't think you followed us, Isaac, but it's the Puppeteer, which is just a giant spider made of mannequins, mannequin hands and arms and legs and stuff like that. And a hatred for mankind and mysterious motives. And so it's like it's one of those things where it's like I should get an artist. However, this is pretty baller. So I'm keeping it. When it's that when it's that interesting, I call it a pass. However, I promise you, the 99 other things I generated is not nearly as interesting as all that.
Yeah, I mean, personally, I know visual artists have a bit of a different situation with how AI is affecting their field, but in terms of literature bros like myself, it's just been like the entire scene of reading has just been utterly decimated. And then on top of that, you're constantly scrounging for readers to peruse your content, right?
Yep.
So everyone who operates on a visual element automatically has an advantage in just getting attention, because that's how people work, because they're visual creatures, right?
Yeah.
So let's say I'm like a thoroughly AI Puritan, right? And I'm working on a budget. And I can't commission anything high end.
Yeah.
What is better, no cover or an AI cover that doesn't look like it's really AI? And then you're competing with everyone else who is using AI covers as well. And so I'm going to be the one guy left who's like, yeah, you should read my stuff, but I don't even have a cover for it.
Well, it's like I barely even view it as competition. It's like, there's like, oh, I'm in competition with a billion trillion AI Indian slop accounts and Chinese slop accounts with their million isekai dumb shows, which eventually just evolve into power fantasies of a quite frankly insidious nature, because they don't know how to end their fucking shows. Like it's like, my goodness, but it's like, what am I in competition with them? No, I'm better than them. I've always been better than them, and I don't mean this against you specifically. I'm just ranting in general, like a mad scientist in front of a corpse I'm about to shoot with lightning. um it's like I've always been better than them, quite frankly, because one, I know how to end a story, and two, what am I competing against? Somebody's teenage power fantasy? Oh, I've been working on this since high school. I will road rash you from here to Kansas City. I will drag you behind on hooks, and I won't bury the body. You'll be a feast for the crows. I have strong feelings about that stuff. Like, you're not in competition with those slot merchants, those AI grifters, who pump out a million stories that are instantly forgotten. And quite frankly, if the whales can't tell what's AI slop, how how can they be trusted to be anything more than a fancy, or a bonbon in a box with 100 other bonbons? It's oh well. Well, we've been going for an hour. I want to thank you for joining, Isaac. We'll do this again soon, I'm sure. Maybe when you have another hot take, uh, and Twitter is yelling at you or something. I don't know. I don't know. I don't worry about it. It's your life. You can be yelled at by Twitter
Uh,
however you want.
this is my career. It's just
Yes.
being everyone's punching bag.
Uh-huh. Which is why you punch back and remind the Foids that they're only good for their milk or something, like I do. Uh, I think there might be a reason why I'm an incel chud, Isaac. I think there might be a reason. I feel like I'm coming on a revelation. I could go for a glass of milk. It's gone. All right. Uh, be sure to support other of your favorite chuds online. Put some money into Vagabonds. You won't regret it. And the benefit also is that it's already written. Isaac produces, which is my highest praise.
And you can
Uh,
read it for free if you go to the Kickstarter right now. You can read the full book for free
make him
on
pay.
Royal Road
Make him
if
pay.
you like. If you want to know,
No, you need to make him pay, Isaac.
I can make them pay.
You gotta make him pay.
uh,
All right, guys. You'll see us next week. I'm probably gonna do a variety stream, uh, just on some different stuff. Maybe shit on some pagans some more. That was pretty fun last time.